Morning, everybody. My timing was impeccable. Right, obviously it's quite unusual being in front of such a small gathering of producers and farmers. In part of my speech I've said, you know, everybody's speaking about the new normal. He's obviously a fidget at home, you know. But unfortunately, this is the new normal. But I mean, I think people hate saying the new normal. But so, I mean, my topic was post-COVID. So I think we as South Africans are fairly gregarious people, and I thought I'd better translate that for Gilo. Ons is baie bedrywige mense. You know, we like to have meetings, we like to socialize afterwards, you know, maybe have a chop and a dop and chat about the day on the farm or, you know, what happened in the meetings. And obviously now you can see poor old Isak has had COVID, so he's sitting at home, and thank goodness that he's healthy. But it does change the way we do things, and obviously it does create opportunities for other businesses, especially the internet businesses, and business does sort of continue, but in a completely different way. So my topic is the economic realities of the wool value chain post-COVID for the buyers, and I think also for the industry. Firstly, who knows when post-COVID will be? Will a form of COVID be with us forever because of new variants? Will yearly vaccinations be the norm for years to come? And could there be other pandemics hiding around the corner? So I don't think we must look at the topic to say what's going to happen post-COVID. I think we just need to say what's going to happen with COVID. Because COVID is here, and it's going to be here for obviously quite a number of years, in my opinion, until proper vaccinations have been done globally, and maybe even better vaccinations are invented or created. I'll not take any of Clarence's thunder. I have read his presentation, so I could have stolen quite a bit, but I won't. But it is quite relevant to post-COVID and where I see the wool industry going and the wool value chain going with regards to the producers. He covers sustainability and standards. However, it is very relevant to this topic. The reason why I say this is due to the pandemic. Most of the Western world, and I think to a lesser extent the Eastern world, are taking a good hard look at themselves and asking the question, what is important to me and my family? And I think you must probably find a lot of the people in the room and a lot of the people online have asked exactly the same question. Because when we were in serious lockdown for 5 weeks, fortunately I had most of my family with me, but it was extremely difficult. But then you start actually saying what is important to you in life. And I think people ask the questions, and I think the general answers that I've come up with are as follows. The people have come to realize how delicate life can be. How many people listening and watching know of someone who has passed from COVID who was relatively fit and healthy and really unexpected to pass away? What is important in life? Spending quality time with your family or spending more time at the office and less time with your family? Obviously now people are spending slightly more time with their family because a lot of people are working from home. Sometimes you want to throttle the kids because they're making such a noise and you can't work, but that again is the reality of where we are at the moment. Is it important to have the latest Land Cruiser? I know this gentleman on my right loves his Land Cruisers or Mercedes, or is it important to have a comfortable home to live in? Because now we're living in the home a lot more. Is it more important to wear fast fashion, or is it better to buy slow fashion which is more environmentally friendly, while maybe more costly, but lasts longer and helps our planet? And I think this is the crux of the matter where wool lies internationally with regards to the fibers that are out there. And obviously your greatest buying power is out in China because it's just the numbers they have. But Europe and United States obviously have got a lot of buying power as well, and especially Europe are a lot more environmentally aware than the eastern side of our world. So to the question of the economic realities for wool post-COVID, again, I don't think there is a post-COVID, it's the realities of wool in COVID. Having asked the above questions, in my opinion, wool is really well placed to become a factor when answering these questions. Our market naturally is tightly linked to the exchange rate, which I actually didn't want to look at it this morning because we bought quite a bit of wool yesterday and I haven't covered all my currency. Hopefully Clarence was a lot cleverer than me. But I mean, I know it started at 1379 and I think when I left the office it was 1358. Where is it now, Clarence? 1354, which is not good for us as buyers, unless you're a clever man like Clarence. I'm not as clever as him. And it's obviously not that great for the producers because in my statement here is it's very tightly, the wool market is obviously, as you all know, very tightly linked to the exchange rate. And the chap who works for me, Ken Craig, his father sent an email the other day and said, but currency is quite easy. If the commodity prices go up, the rand strengthens. But that's in a macro environment. And, you know, we as industry players, we live in a micro environment. We work from week to week. Excuse me, we don't have the funds to be able to say, excuse me, let's not cover for 2 or 3 weeks and hopefully the rand will weaken or strengthen. So we have to do it from week to week. And at the moment, due to the lack of travel, you know, due to the pandemic, there's a lot more disposable income around. So where are these people going to spend this money? Cheers, thanks. And again, in my opinion, is because a lot of people are staying at home, they're going to be spending it at home, which is interiors, which is more specific to the European environment. A lot of those people use more interior fabrics made out of wool. And why not dress comfortably? It's going to cost a little bit more, but if you've got more disposable income, well, then you're going to go and look at the quality of what you're purchasing and what it is doing to the environment. And I mean, as most people are aware of the responsible wool standard, how it's taken a hold in South Africa, in the South African market and globally. And you can see people are looking to say, well, what am I wearing? What impact does it have on the environment? And is it going to be good for my children and my children's children? And I think a lot of people are thinking about things like this. In my opinion, the price of wool has done remarkably well, taking everything into consideration. I looked at the graphs, the Cape Wool's graph yesterday, and if you actually look at where, obviously, the price dropped quite dramatically, we had the foot and mouth, which is a big hit to all the producers as well to the buyers. And then, you know, it's been recovering ever since, even with a stronger and ever strengthening rand. However, we mustn't become complacent, and we must ensure that we as the South African producers keep the pride in what we produce. Because again, I've stood on many forums, and I know many of the buyers have to say that you as producers produce an incredible product, which makes it a lot easier for us to be able to market. And there is definitely a demand for the South African wool, specifically now because of non-mules and specifically, obviously, RWS. And the interesting thing is that there was an article that was sent, I think, on our directors group, where there are certain companies who will not buy non-mules, who will only buy non-mules wool by the year 2025. So where does that position South Africa? Right in the middle of the firing line of where people are going to source their wool from. And Australia are now suddenly realizing that they have to do something. They've been sweeping things under the carpet, but now all of a sudden they're saying these big players, Puma I think was the one, said that after 2025, and it's quite interesting, I had a client who chatted to me about 3 weeks ago, and he's based in Italy, and he was actually saying that it wasn't about non-mules, it was non-Australian wool, which is very interesting. And I remember many years ago, I was probably in one of these forums here, and Petrus de Wet was up at the top here, and you know, the buyers would always like to have more wool to purchase because we think there's a good market out there. Then Petrus said, no, well, that's fine. If you give us a higher price, we'll produce more wool. Well, the prices have been phenomenal and we've actually got less wool. So I don't know what more to do to convince the farmers. I know it's an on-farm thing that has to be done. But, and there are a lot more challenges with regards to your expenses and droughts and things like that. But, you know, the international market can take a lot more of our South African wool. But we must not rely on the non-mulesing status to think that your wool will automatically have a market. And to me, that's the important thing, is we mustn't rest on our laurels. We've got the opportunity to actually take the industry forward in South Africa and make it great and good for everyone, from down at the bottom all the way through to the top. There's a lot of behind the scenes work that's been done on collaboration between various countries, and I know Clarence will touch on that, and ourselves to leverage our non-mulesing status, which ultimately will benefit everyone in the wool value chain. So it's the biggest bonus that I think our industry has and US producers have, is that by the grace of God, I can only say, is that you have a non-mules product, because it's going to play more and more of a factor in the global environment. So from a buyer's perspective, obviously, you know, people don't believe it, but our margins are particularly thin. The only way we can make decent money, as everybody would like to make decent money, is by buying as much wool as possible. So it's the volume. And the interesting thing, and I don't know if Clarence saw when the market report came through yesterday, there's obviously 3 fairly large buying companies. It's Standard Wool, Lempria, and Modiano. And I think we had 70,206 bales for the season. Modiano 70,106, and Lempria 70,150 or something, which is actually, I've never experienced that ever since I've been in the industry, and I've been in the industry 35 years. So from a competition point of view, and I've stood on many forums, said that you only need 2 to make a market. Now you've got 3, and then other people coming in, especially on RWS. I mean, we've got a really, really robust market from a competition point of view, which will always ensure that there is a market for your wool, whether it be locks all the way through up to the super fines, because there's always more than 1 or 2 companies competing on that wool. Obviously, the risks that are faced is that if wool leaves the market and it doesn't come to the market, where does the price point come from? And I think there's a lot of challenges in the mohair market at the moment. And I certainly hope it doesn't creep into the wool market, because then it affects the competitiveness of people at the market. But every producer has a right to market their wool to whomever they wish. But consideration must also be made with regards to the broader picture. But so from a buyer's point of view, I think we were particularly worried when we went through the foot and mouth that still is like a sword of Damocles hanging over our head all the time if the foot and mouth issue raises its head. I've been fortunate to go up to Onderstepoort with Dion and I think it is George. And I mean, the big challenges that our country face with regards to animal diseases, and Cape Wools and all the industry players are very aware of it, and we're trying particularly hard to do whatever we can to try and help the government protect our industry. And I think it's the new norm in South Africa is that sadly we cannot rely on the government to do their job. We have to start doing the job, and we can't turn around and say, but it's their responsibility. If we don't start doing things like this, it's going to be to our detriment and not to the government's detriment. Ultimately, it will from a financial return point of view and taxes, but unfortunately we have to do this. But I must raise an issue, and at Cape Wools we always look at the risk register and what are our risks, and we've changed it. I've been on Cape Wools board for a number of years. Sorry, I'm holding this, I might as well have a sip of it. So I've been on the Cape Wools board, excuse me, for a number of years. And we look at risk registers and where our risks are. And biodiversity, as I mentioned, is obviously one. Transformation is another, and that's a national thing that has to be looked at and quite seriously. I'm on a board out at a private school at Woodridge, and exactly the same thing we're going through. And it's important in the country to look at transformation, because we have to recognize what's happened in the past and we have to correct things that are wrong. But the issue I want to raise, because we had a meeting just recently, is in my opinion, that could jeopardize all the hard work that US producers do, is on-farm practices when it comes to labor and shearers and how they are treated. And it has to be brought to the fore. And I know Cape Wools as well, we're really bringing it to the fore. We've got all these standards that Clarence will touch on, but without a defendable position to say that we are looking after the people who start the industry off on the second tier. The first tier is US producers. But that second tier, it's like a car without wheels. If you don't have good labor and you don't have good shearers, we don't have an industry. And I really think that it's time, and it's been spoken about over so many years. And I was quite admittedly shocked, and I looked at some figures that were presented to us last year to what the shearers get paid in relation to what a fleece actually attains at auction. And again, I know there's a lot of other expenses. It's not just pure profit. There's lots of other expenses. And I'm the last person to say, well, why they should be getting more because look how much money there's. I mean, you're the people who know that. But a lot has been done in recent times, but we know the impact that the PETA issue had on the mower industry. And we are very serious from Cape Wool's point of view and also from SAWAMBA to make sure that we push the agenda that the producers have to look at this very seriously. Because if this is the kind of thing that's going to heckle the industry, you know, we're going to be very sad that we actually didn't do something about it. And it's a humanitarian thing as well. So, as I say, I'm most probably speaking to the converted, but I think the message has to get out there that it's one of our biggest risks besides biosecurity is on-farm practices, because you're going to have all the RWS standards, all the SC, the Abalusi standards, all the other different kind of standards and the Cape Wool standards. But if we're not looking after our labor and that gets out there, then all of that just gets tossed into the bin. Because at the moment, everybody's focusing on non-mules internationally, which is great for us. And we've got a great product, but we have to make sure that we have a complete product. We have one more auction to go. I think all the buyers, I know especially myself, are looking forward to a break. It's due to the pandemic, we almost didn't have a break. And, you know, we're not like farmers who can work 12 months of the year. We can only work for about 8 or 9, and then we need a couple of months off. And so I think we're really looking forward to the break. I think it's been a particularly good season for everybody. I think the industry has recovered particularly well. And I'd like to thank you, the producers, for supplying a product that we can take to market. Without you, without the shearers, without the sheep, and without us and the structures around us, we wouldn't have, I think, the wonderful industry we have. So I'm very positive about the future. I think the prices, again, linked to the exchange rate, are still particularly good. Again, I still remember Piet was telling me, but I know it was many years ago, that break even was 80 Rand a kilo. Probably everybody would laugh at that now. But I'm pretty sure that at the moment, if you're a wise farmer and you're a clever farmer, that at the prices we have at the moment, that you can still make a decent living and hopefully increase your flock. Don't keep on buying farms that you don't have to pay tax, because then when the trouble comes, then you've got no cash. But I mean, you've said that before. But you guys never do that, so I know that, you know, it's but it's obviously a natural thing. But thank you very much. It's been a privilege to be down here. Obviously, I wish there were more of the producers down here. And at least we've managed to have a Congress. With the imminent third wave, I think there was doubts that maybe this would have been, the plug would have been pulled in this as well.